You know those wonderful chocolate dipped shortbread cookies that you can get at your local bakeries? Sometimes you can find them in grocery stores. Those are so delicious. But you no longer have to go to your local bakery to buy those, or buy them at your grocery store. I'm gonna show you how to make those homemade, and they're so easy and take so few ingredients with today's Homestead Kitchen Skills. Hey friends, this is Angela from Art of Creation Homestead, and I'm back at you with another Homestead Kitchen Skills. So, this is one of my favorites. I love shortbread cookies. This one is just a buttery vanilla shortbread, and half of it is dipped in chocolate. So how can you go wrong with that? Very few ingredients, an amazing, amazing dessert. So here we go. This is what you need to do to get started. First, you need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Then you need to have 3/4 of a cup of salted butter softened. Now this is very soft, as you can see. It's very, very soft. I wanted to make sure that it was extremely soft. You want it very soft. Now, this may be controversial. I choose to use salted butter. I think it gives it a better flavor. I've done it both ways. I've definitely done it both ways. And I know most of the time you're gonna find people tell you to do it with unsalted butter. I prefer the flavor when you do it with salted butter. I think it brings out the flavor a little more. So, as you can see, what I'm doing, I'm mixing up that butter. And as you can see, it's so softened that you can just mix it up with a spatula. If you soften it to this point, then you don't need a mixer. If it's still a little tougher than this, you will need a mixer. But all you need to do to soften it to this point, put it in your microwave for about 15 seconds, and it's there. So, now the next thing, may be another controversial thing, but it's the way I like them. You need sugar. Most people would use granulated sugar. I think you get a much better texture. You get more of that beautiful crumbly texture if you use powdered sugar. So I'm using 3/4 of a cup of powdered sugar. Now, you just want to work that powdered sugar into your very softened butter. It's literally just this easy. You will not find an easier cookie to make. But yet, most people choose to buy shortbread at a bakery or out of the store. I mean, we've all bought shortbread out of the store. I have too. But once you learn this recipe, and my oven's preheated. Once you learn this recipe, you will never go to another type. You will never buy it again. Now, what you need for this is just a few ingredients. And the way you bake it is all up to you. I will show you how I like to bake it, but literally, it's up to you. Now to this, we are going to add, now I told you this is very vanilla, so we are going to add 2.5 teaspoons of vanilla. Now, you know with me, I don't measure my vanilla, so that's roughly measured. If you've been watching me for any length of time at all, you know I don't measure vanilla. For one thing, I love the flavor of vanilla. Okay, now you want to work that in really good, because you want all that vanilla mixed in before you add in your flour. And see, if you do soften your butter to that stage, see, you can just do it with a spatula. No mixer required. Easy peasy dessert that normally you pay a lot for, because I gotta tell you, shortbread cookies out of the store are expensive. Now, here we have 1 and 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. This is just plain all-purpose flour. And we have just a pinch of salt, just a little pinch. Now, if you are using unsalted butter, you will want to bump up that salt from 1 pinch to about 1/2 teaspoon. So I'm going to shake those together. You guys know I like to do it on wax paper because you can use it as a funnel to funnel it into your dry ingredients. Now, we are going to dump in about 1/2 of our flour and salt mixture, just so it's easier on you to mix in. If you're using a mixer, you can probably go ahead and dump the whole thing in, but I like to do it in batches. It just makes it easier. And you can see that I'm using a silicone spatula to mix this up. You can use a wooden spoon or any kind of utensil, but I find that a silicone spatula helps you to be able to mash it, because as you can see, I'm kind of stirring, kind of mashing, because it helps you get the flour and everything mixed into that butter. And it helps keep that butter nice and soft if you kind of mash it as you go. And it smells so good because that vanilla. Now we are going to add in the last 1/2 of our flour. And this has been easy peasy lemon squeezy so far, isn't it? You can't beat a dessert that's this easy. You really can't. Now, just continue to push and mash until, because you'll notice with this 1/2 that it's getting a little bit stiffer to mix in the flour. But it's all gonna go in there, I promise. This shortbread recipe right here is also a good base for a lot of stuff here, people. You can use this to make chocolate caramel bars. You can use this as the base to make millionaire shortbread, which if you've never had millionaire shortbread, you need to have it once in your life because it is amazing stuff. If you've never heard of it, I may have to make that for you guys sometimes. And it's great for anything that needs a shortbread crust. Jam bars. I've done this with like some cherry jam bars before. Oh, it was amazing. Now I'm gonna go in with my 2 favorite tools, the ones God put at the end of my wrist. You don't have to, you can continue using a spoon. But I wanna feel it. I wanna see that it's sticking together, see? See how when I squeeze it, it's sticking together real good? That tells me that it's perfect. Because shortbread dough is gonna be kind of crumbly. It just is. It's gonna be kind of crumbly. But when you go in with your hands like this, if that butter has started to stiffen up, say your kitchen is a little cold that day, if your butter has started to stiffen back up, the heat from your hands is gonna help keep that butter nice and warm and help you get it mixed in. Now, you've got your beautiful shortbread dough. Now, you have to choose how you're gonna bake it. For me, I like to bake mine in a square pan. Therefore, I have like little cookie bars, but you can also do it in a pie plate and then cut it in wedges, which is a lot of times what you see with shortbread. But this is gonna give little cookie bars, which is going to allow me to dunk them in chocolate much easier. So, we're just gonna put our dough into our pan. This is an 8 by 8. You can use a 9 by 9, but they will be thinner. Your bars will be a little bit bigger, but they will be a little bit thinner as well. These are gonna be nice and substantial. It may also vary your cooking time, your baking time. It may vary your baking time if you use a 9 by 9. It may bake a little less time than in an 8 by 8 because they are gonna be thinner. So you wanna take your fingers and push it out into one as close to even layer as you can possibly get. Fill in any cracks. Don't let it have cracks. You don't want cracks in your shortbread. You want it to be nice and firm and set up. If you want, you can even take a measuring cup and use that to help you push down. And it helps you get a nice firm layer. And it helps you get rid of any cracks. Now I like to push down the edges because it tends to want to run up the edges. So I like to take my fingertips and just kind of push down those edges so that it's more even. Now it may go up the sides a little as it bakes anyways, but you don't want to help it along to do that. Now for what I think is the most interesting part. The key to shortbread like this is you want to go ahead and pre-cut it before you bake it. Even though it's going to bake right back together, you want to pre-cut it before you bake it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 6 this way. Now I cut it in half, cut each half into 3. Be sure and not cut your parchment paper. You can also do this with a bench scrape as well. Now that will turn the pan and you'll cut it in 3rds this way. That's gonna give you 18 beautiful cookie bars. This is going to sound like an unnecessary step. Not at all unnecessary. Shortbread needs the holes poked in it. You wanna take a fork, poke about 3 holes in each cookie bar. This is very important. It lets out the steam. And when it lets out the steam, it allows it to dry out because see, that's the key to good shortbread, is it's gotta dry out. And if you don't poke the holes, it's not gonna dry out properly. So, you want to poke the holes. Don't poke it all the way down. Don't poke it to the bottom. Just poke it about halfway down your cookie bar. Now they're all cut and poked. So now they're ready to go into your waiting 350-degree oven. Now you are going to bake these until they are lightly golden brown. You don't want a lot of brown on shortbread. You want them just lightly golden brown. That's when you know they're done. We'll be back and I'll show you what these look like when they come out of the oven. I will also show you an extremely important step that has to happen the minute they come out of the oven. It's extremely important that you do this step the minute they come out of the oven. It just makes for much better shortbread cookies. And also, I forgot to tell you, when you are making shortbread, please, if it's at all possible, do not use margarine. Please use real butter. It uses so few ingredients that those ingredients really matter. And you can make it with margarine and it will turn out, but it won't be as good. If you want that beautiful buttery shortbread, use real butter. These beauties are out of the oven. Mine baked for 25 minutes. It could take anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes, depending on your pan, whether it's glass or metal, depending on your oven, depending on if you choose to use a 9x9 or an 8x8, and depending on if you choose to use a pie plate. Now, because of that, I'm going to teach you the perfect look of how they're going to look when you get them out of the oven, because you need to go more by look than by time. Now, to get them absolutely perfect, if you look in about halfway through, you are going to notice that the top looks kind of oily almost, because your butter has started melting. So it's going to look almost oily. When they are perfectly ready, they look dry and matte on top. And they almost look flaky. You can almost look like you see flakiness in it. They almost look like a flaky pie crust. And you also start to get this beautiful, beautiful golden brown. You can't see it on the camera. I wish you could, because it's an absolutely gorgeous golden brown. Just right around the edges. then you know it's perfection. Now, let me teach you a trick. But what you want to do the minute it comes out of the oven, no matter what kind of pan you baked it in, where you cut it at, it's baked it back together now. So you want to take your knife and you want to cut it back apart the minute it comes out of the oven. Don't wait for it to cool. You want to cut it the minute it comes out of the oven. Use those lines and cut it along those lines where you cut it before. This will help it to crisp up so much better. You will get so much better of a texture if you do this step. Now they're all cut back the way they need to be cut. Now, before we dip these in chocolate, you want to let them cool completely in the pan. Because right now, they're still a little soft. So the heat from the pan and the carryover cook is going to finish baking these to perfection, to crumbly, beautiful shortbread perfection. Then, when they're completely cool, I'll show you how I dip them in chocolate. You don't have to do that step, but I don't know why you wouldn't want to. So we'll be back when these are cool. Our bars are completely cool now. As you can see, they are completely cool and ready to be dipped in chocolate. And here we have about 3/4 of a bag to an entire bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips. Depends on how thick or how thin you like to coat them, how much you will use. And I have melted this in the microwave in 30-second intervals where I melted it. I had it for 30 seconds, took it out, stirred it, 30 seconds, took it out and stirred it until it was all melted. And over here, I have a cookie sheet lined with some wax paper for a landing strip for our shortbread cookies. Now we are going to take our completely cooled shortbread. See, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Now we are going to dip half, just half of our shortbread in. Shake off excess. See, isn't that gorgeous? And we are going to put them over here on our landing pad. You can dip as much as you want, or you can drizzle them with chocolate. I prefer dipping half of them in. Now I'm going to keep dipping these, and when they're done, I'll tell you what you do next. Okay, as you can see, these are all dipped and ready to go. Once they're dipped, you want to put them in the refrigerator or in the freezer, depending on how fast you want them to set up. Once the chocolate is completely set up, you can store them in an airtight container at room temperature for up to 1 week. We'll be back and Jason will get to taste these for you.
Okay, so this was a really nice surprise when I came home from work. I seen these sitting there, and got a confession to make. I've had these before, so I know they're good. The only complaint is that like the whole thing isn't just covered in chocolate. Of course it'd be a mess, then you really couldn't taste the cookie. But these are absolutely delicious, a wonderful treat. And they're small enough that you can actually control yourself with them if you so choose. But why would you do that? So, I thank you guys for watching. We do appreciate it. My name is Jason. That's Angela Kay. It's our Creation Homestead. We love you guys. God bless you and goodbye.